I'm about to get my plasmapheresis done. I'm in the room now and I'm so scared. So basically it's the scariest procedure. You stay awake for 6 hours. They take blood out of your body and clean it through like a chest catheter, which they'll insert through my chest, like the main artery. And there are complications, so I'm scared, but I have faith and I feel pretty strong and confident. But it looks like a scary room, like a major surgical room. Okay, so they inserted the catheter. I'm just going to tell you about this first because Ross had to leave the room. So they asked him to leave the room, and then there was a nurse just for this part of the procedure, and then the nurse left. So they inserted the catheter, and to be honest, you get a local anesthetic. So when the catheter was first going in, I think it's a catheter. I don't know if I'm getting these terms wrong because apparently it wasn't like a main artery that I thought it was. Like it's just a big vein in the chest. But I'll mention that later in the video. But basically they give you a local anesthetic, which is like a normal injection. It doesn't really hurt, it feels like a normal injection. And then they start to put the pipe in through the chest. And when it first went in, I was like, okay, this is not sore at all. Like, this is great, this is going to be so easy. And then they started pushing it, and I felt pressure when it got like to, I would say like this area, because they push it through from there to there, or here, I don't know. And then it started to reach near my heart, and that's when everything just went crazy. Like my heart, it was the worst palpitations that I've ever felt in my life. It almost felt like my heart stopped for a few seconds and then would start and then stop for a few seconds and then start, and it just was really, really scary, and I couldn't take a breath in because of it either. Like I don't know if I was breathing in and it just wasn't taking. I think that's what was happening. I was breathing in and I just couldn't feel like the breath come in. It was just a terrible, terrible, terrible feeling for me. I just kept screaming, my heart, my heart, my heart. And then eventually they pulled the pipe back and it stopped a bit, but every time I moved during the procedure, which is like 6 hours total, I could feel it like pushing there, and then my heart would go crazy again. So I couldn't move at all. I just stayed still, so it was very uncomfortable. And I wasn't hooked up to any machines yet or anything, so they couldn't see what was going on with my heart, and they couldn't see my oxygen. And I wish that they had hooked me up so that they could see what was happening. But I mean, the doctor's like an expert, he knows what he's doing. It was just extremely uncomfortable. And they are on standby for like emergencies if anything had really happened, you know. But it was just like really scary and uncomfortable. And just think of, if you have had heart palpitations, think of the worst heart palpitations you could possibly imagine. And I could actually feel it like touching and irritating. I don't know if it was touching the heart, I think it was touching a part of like the protection layer, and it just getting like so irritated. It was just a nightmare. Yeah, so and then the rest of the procedure took place, so I'll show you some footage of that now.
Okay, guys, this is what's going on. Kimberly is busy doing the procedure now.
Traumatized from when they inserted the pipe. Proper traumatized. I'll try to show it.
Yes, we can see it perfectly. Don't have to move anything. So this is what is going on here. So the blood comes out into this machine over here. It gets transferred to this machine. Then it gets filtered by that big filter over there. And then the clean filtered blood gets transferred back into this machine over here using all these different pipes, and then it gets put back into the body. So that is a very simple way of explaining it. The doctor used a lot of terminologies and stuff, so yeah.
So basically the pipe goes all the way in the deep vein in my chest to the end of the heart. So it goes in the chest and through the, what's it called? The chest artery. The chest artery that the pipe goes through. What is it called?
Oh, it's not an artery, it's a vein.
Oh, it's just a vein.
Subclavian vein. Subclavian vein.
Subclavian vein.
Hey guys, I can release my first 7th cycle. So
I'm not doing so well. At this point, I would say it's not worth it at all. We'll have to see the results, so I have to keep that in mind. It's very hard to, I'll explain everything after, it's hard to talk now, but it's very difficult. I think people who say that it's not are either very lucky with their bodies or they've forgotten because of the trauma. So yeah, it's difficult, but Ross is motivating me. I keep saying I want to quit, but he won't let me. He says you will get to the end, so it's definitely good to have someone here to motivate you. Okay guys, so what we are looking at is the machine that shows when the blood is being drawn, and then when the plasma is being separated, and then when the blood is being returned to the body. So that little person shows that it's being drawn now, and it has an arrow showing that it's being taken out of the body, and it says draw at the top. And then it will show you how many milliliters per minute are being drawn out of the body. So 50 milliliters per minute, 45 milliliters per minute. And then, to be honest, I'm not sure what's on the bottom, but it shows which cycle you're on. So obviously it does it in cycles. I'll explain better later. But this is my 12th and last cycle. It's different for everyone. And then I'm not sure what the other figures mean, to be honest. You guys maybe know, comment below if you know, or I'm not sure if you're able to figure it out for yourselves, but I don't want to give any wrong information. And I am finally done, and those are my final figures.
So this is the bad stuff with all the toxins in and all the bad stuff. Here's the good stuff. Potent plasma.
Okay, so guys, I just got back to my room from the procedure. I'll tell you about it. It's gonna be a long explanation, not a good one. Anyway, so we're treating ourselves, okay? We never eat like this. We're usually on keto. We've been on the keto diet for I've been doing for like 2 years. But while we're here, we are treating ourselves because we're killing our Lyme, or my Lyme, maybe his, and we got these beautiful. He surprised me with these beautiful things after my procedure, so we're just gonna eat now, and I'll show you the pizza as well when we open it. But how amazing! Best partner of ever of eternity, right?
Yep, that's me.
No, he really has been, like really has. I can't even explain, and I don't really have energy, but I love you.
I love you. Now let's enjoy eating.
Yes. Let's.
That's really nice.
Beautiful. Guys, it's like 10 minutes later and we literally almost finished it all. I'm definitely still gonna have more of this. Don't judge me. So the rest of the plasmapheresis for me was also very, very difficult. every time the blood would leave the body, I would feel fine. So basically they do 12 rounds of the blood leaving the body and then the plasma being separated from the blood, and then they will return the blood to the body. For me it was 12 rounds. That's just, it depends on how much plasma you have, your blood volume, your height, your weight, your gender. It just depends. So it can vary, but mine was 12 rounds total. And the first few rounds were like quite easy. I didn't feel much. I was talking, right?
Yes.
And it was just, there was no nurse. It was just a doctor and Ross in the room and me, obviously. And I was fine. And then eventually, I think on the 5th round is when it was difficult.
Yes.
So by the 5th round, when the 5th round left my body, I started to feel my hearing go away, like blocked ears. And then I started to feel I couldn't like process information, and then lightheaded and like shortness of breath and just feeling like I'm gonna black out, and like I was falling through the bed. Like you literally feel like you're falling through the bed. Like I was like holding onto the bed going like and it was like so unpleasant. Like you just feel so unpleasant. And then the doctor wasn't there at that time, so Ross was like running around the hospital trying to find the doctor, and there was no nurse. So I didn't like know if it was normal or anything. It was really scary. And then he came and did something on the machine, and then the blood started returning again.
Yeah, I think the whole thing about the experience, I think the worst part of our experience was the fact that there was no nurse there. So I was basically the nurse for the whole 6 hours. I was the one telling Kim that everything is going to be all right. But obviously, this is the first time I've ever seen this process happen, and how do I know that everything's going to be all right? But I have to tell her that I have to calm her down. Whereas if a nurse was there, they would be well trained on the situation, on how to handle it, how to explain to Kim what was going on. No one was kind of there to explain things. I mean, the doctor's incredible at what he does. He does it for a living. He's been doing it for many, many years. However, he needs support in terms of a nurse. He needs someone to be there with the patient, holding their hand, telling them what's going on. I mean, it's a very hectic procedure.
Yeah.
Watching it the whole time was it was like heartbreaking for me as Kim's partner to watch her going suffering, and for me to be the only support there. Whereas I don't know what is actually really going on.
And we kept asking for an anxiety pill, like something to calm my anxiety. And he kept saying like, no. He was like, I will be your I'll calm you down. And then I was like, how about a nurse stays with me? And he was like, I'll be your nurse and your doctor. And then he kept leaving the room. And I was like, I just felt unsupported.
And then I kept on running after him, because I was running into the different offices, try to find this guy, because he also was doing hypothermia at the same time.
So basically that's what happened. And then eventually, as the rounds continued, and I know everybody's story is completely different, so it all depends on your body, your conditions and everything, but as the rounds continued, I started to feel weaker and weaker and more sick, just like generally overall just very, very ill, and like it was difficult to like lift my arms because I was so weak, and I was obviously feeling lightheaded and that weird feeling. Oh, and the other thing that I felt when my blood was leaving my body was just a burning in my chest. Like I felt like this burning in my chest and my abdomen, and I kept asking him, can you take the blanket off me, can you take the blanket off me? And I think also in my neck. So strange. It's such a strange reaction. Please comment down below if you've had this reaction when you've had too much blood loss, because I don't know like if that's normal, or if you've had plasmapheresis before and you've had this heart experience, because I feel like I'm talking to people and it seems to be a unique thing. I don't understand like what happened to me or anything. I don't understand it. And then what else? So
and obviously, if you're going to have this procedure coming up in the future, or if you had it before and you've freaked out and you've had panic attacks and stuff, most of the symptoms are real. I mean, this is what's going on, but the doctor's incredible at this clinic. He knows exactly what's going on. No damage happened to Kimberly during this process.
We don't think.
We don't think, but I'm pretty sure nothing really happened to her. However, it was a terrible experience.
It was traumatizing. It really was traumatizing. They could have done something to make me feel comfortable at least. Like because there's so many strange sensations. Even he just injects things into the chest pipe, and you feel like this burning like in your throat all of a sudden. And if he had just told me, okay, now it's gonna burn a bit, you know, I would have expected it. But I was, every sensation I was like, ooh, I was on edge because of what had initially happened with my heart, and then the dizziness and the burning and everything. Every sensation just added to the trauma. I was like on high, like on edge, and then there not being anyone telling me what's happening, not anyone even telling me it's going well, or like reassuring me about anything, or it's normal what I'm feeling or why I'm feeling it. We did get like an information form before saying you might feel nauseous, you might vomit, you might feel dizzy, you might just a few things, have low blood pressure. But there were certain symptoms to me that like just did not feel right at all. Sorry, there's something that I forgot to mention when we were talking together and we're packing, so just ignore, we're packing to leave. But the thing that I forgot to mention is that during the procedure, the doctor ran into the room. He literally ran into the room and he looked at the machine and he went, oh, the machine! And he like freaked out because the machine was beeping and I was feeling like really terrible. And I was like, what? And I was like freaking out. I was like so scared. I thought there was something like really wrong. And then he was like, ha ha ha, just joking. And obviously I did not laugh. It was like not funny, like so crazy. Like, what doctor would do that to his patient? I think that he just thought that I was like a drama queen and just like an anxious ball. And I had no sedation or anything. So I was going through this hectic procedure like just completely aware and alert and feeling terrible, and that's what the doctor did to me. And then like even after the procedure, he was like, okay, now just sit up slowly and then you can get in the wheelchair and your partner will push you back to your room. And like if I was alone, I would never have been able to get up on my own. It was actually really sore at this point, like I was in pain, and I was very, very weak as well. And then I should also mention that I always forget this part because it isn't anything compared to the procedure, but after the procedure you do have pain at the site of the insertion of the catheter. I think it's called a catheter, I don't know. But at the site of the insertion you do have pain. So I did eventually take a painkiller that evening just to sleep. And then the next day it was much better. So you do get pain after the procedure, well for me anyway. And I know a lot of people did complain about that. So that was one normal thing that happened to me, but I just thought I'd mention about how I was traumatized also by the doctor. But I think that it's just because he sees it as very casual and he does it so often. So for him it's not a big deal. But there is one complication of the procedure, and that is that your lung can collapse. So air can get into like between your rib cage and your lung, and it like compresses the lung and your lung collapses. And obviously that can be really scary. You can't fly, so you would have to stay for longer and you'd have to go on oxygen support, and it's a serious thing. So I thought that had happened to me, and nobody told me afterwards how my lungs were doing or anything. So I actually requested for the doctor to come into my room, or a different doctor to come into my room. And then he told me, like he listened to my lungs and he told me that everything was fine. But I think something important for people to know is that they should do that afterwards, and that if your lungs are fine after your procedure, then you're good. There's been no complications. I wasn't updated at all about that. So that's why I took it upon myself to check that. And I asked the doctor, okay, so does that mean that I'm not going to get any lung collapse? And he said, that means that you won't. So if after the procedure your lungs are all good, then you can relax and be rest assured. Okay guys, it's time to take my patch off where the plasmapheresis needle went in. I'm actually kind of scared to see what's in there, to be honest. This is from where they marked me. It's not a vein or anything. They just mark you there for some reason, like to know where to like put the needle. I don't know. I don't actually want to know, to be honest. But here we go. Just gonna rip it. Okay. So there's the hole. It's really not that big, the hole. Not sure why. maybe it healed. Has it? Russ is asking to see. You can't wait to see. But it's not that bad. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. Is that a big hole? No, I don't think so.
No, it's not that big.
So, basically, if I were to recommend the procedure, I would say know your body. If you know that you don't cope well with blood loss and your body doesn't cope well with it, and it's a very terrible feeling for you with blood loss, and I'm not just talking about like a blood test or, you know, something like that, just quite a lot of blood loss, then don't do it. I would say it's not worth it. It does clean out your blood and it eliminates toxins, and it's very, very good for you, and it speeds up your recovery, but it's really not worth the trauma and stress, I would say. I mean, obviously I'm happy that it's done and I'm happy that I've done it, but if someone was going into it, if I knew what it was like before I went into it, I wouldn't have done it. And if I was told that I should do it again, I wouldn't do it again.
And obviously in our situation, if you have problems with heart palpitations, like irregular heart palpitations, do not do it, because I don't think Kimmy would do it again if she knew that this was going to happen.
No. It definitely felt dangerous. Like, it definitely felt very dangerous, and I was terrified. I was screaming. I was terrified. Actually screaming on the top of my lungs. I was screaming in the hospital top. I think they thought I was crazy, but I just was terrified. And in not pain, it wasn't painful, but extreme discomfort.
And definitely the unknown was very, very scary. Like, what could have happened in this situation? Is my heart all right? These type of things are just, it's very stressful.
Because I thought that the pipe had like punctured my heart. Like, literally, it felt sorry, it felt so bad that it felt like the pipe had, I don't know if it's a pipe or a needle, I don't even know, I didn't even look properly, but I think that it punctured, I thought that it punctured my heart, like that something was like really wrong, you know, because why would you get such a strong reaction like that? And they could have told me why I got that reaction. Like, he told me afterwards because I asked, but I don't know, it was just like very uncomfortable experience. So yeah, that's just my feedback. And I know a lot of people who had amazing experiences. Well, I wouldn't say amazing, but it was much easier for them. Yeah, so maybe if it would be easier for you, but I just thought that I would share my experience because it's important to gather information from people who have been through it. Everyone has a different story, everyone has a different body, everyone has a different experience. I think that if I was more supported by a knowledgeable nurse, that would have made it much easier, but I still wouldn't do it again because of the insertion and the palpitations. That's just my feedback. It's a great procedure. It's very good for you. It's excellent for your detox. So make an educated decision and do everything you can to make yourself feel comfortable during the procedure. Maybe take something that will relax you, and first take it with you and ask them if you may take it before, and insist upon it if it is safe to do with the procedure.
And most importantly, ask questions and
Yes.
make sure there's going to be a nurse by your side the whole procedure.
Yes. Thank you for watching,
Thank you for
and we will